you can only do so much back patting. This group likes to be challenged, and we did that. We celebrated. We went through the pain to taste the champagne, as we called it. But now we set a new agenda. Can we attack the Concacaf Champions Cup?
Delighted to be joined by head coach and general manager and CPL champion Tommy Wheeldon Jr., who's entering his 7th season at the helm in the Canadian Premier League. Tommy, thanks for joining us. And I want to start with that because 6 seasons, 3 finals, you've never finished below 3rd place in a CPL regular season. We've won over 50% of your CPL games. What have you learned about longevity and sustaining success?
Have great owners that trust the process, have a great coaching staff that believe in what you're trying to build, and have a good set of players that are not only great for culture, but are good when things are asked of them. And unfortunately, it all unpacked this year, because you could say that 2023 was arguably our better season. 2019 was our best season in terms of number of wins, points, etc. But there's something special about winning the last game of the season when it matters most.
Well, people on the outside, I think, see the wins. They see the players moving on to higher levels. They see, obviously, the trophies you've won over the years in Calgary. What maybe don't they see about the way this club has grown when you look back at its history now?
Just probably we have something we call winning behaviours. And winning behaviours is something that might sound simple, but it's actually living and breathing. The way our players from the front, from being on the pitch, then go in the Sunrise Sunset program that myself and Ian Allison wanted to help build the industry. You look at Nick Ledgewood, first ever signing, now assistant coach. Also helps out in the community. Mason Trafford, our director of partnerships and marketing. Jay Wheeldon, we've had Oliver Minitel, we've had Ben Fisk that's now doing exactly the same at Vancouver. Topher Fakunli, he represented us on the pitch. So I think it's that promotion and growth of an industry is really important. Beyond that, then you're creating internships, and Hannah Wellen does our media, to Philippe Gabriel is on our operations team. It's opportunities we're creating that doesn't just transfer over to when we sell a Gote and Tigney or an Arab and Pep or a Mo Farsi. These are players that are all part of what we develop as winning behaviours. So when Leon Hapgood moves on to New York City and Oliver Minitel onto Orlando City, that's part of our winning behaviours, and we celebrate those too, because those are small victories for us as well.
Yeah, I think the difference between the club in the 2019 final to last year's final was very evident, I think, for anyone in attendance. But I wanted to touch on something you mentioned earlier there as well, kind of turning the attention to 2025. For all your success, it's this strange thing that the last game of the season, or the note the season has ended on, has often been one of disappointment because of the way, obviously, this league is structured and it works. This time it didn't. You ended on that ultimate high of winning a championship. Do you feel that in a tangible way as you come into 2025 and you're in training camp now, that difference of how the last game of the season ended?
Yeah, it's a cup competition, isn't it? I mean, reality is we won 2 games back to back, and we were very good in those 2 games. And I think what it is winning the game in front here. And, whether it be that it was Forge that we played in the first leg, or whether it ended up being an Ottawa, you got to look at who the team is and how you can gain the advantage of being at home, and knowing that the crowd would have been there and they were terrific. And the way our lads responded to the energy the crowd gave was important. But, coaches have said it year after year, in these type of games, you need your best players to be your best players. And for us, we were. It was no surprise when Toby was named, the MVP of the final. But in it, you've also got Marco Carducci that's made big stops and kept the clean sheet in the semi-final, and then a big stop on Jensen and in the final. And then you look at Sergio Camargo, who's been a day oneer, and he scores the goal that people have been saying, has he got that in him? I see it in training all the time. I see it in big games, but he's such a selfless player and allows everyone else to step up and do their job. So our best players were our best players. We only conceded 1 goal over the 2 games. And that's credit to our defensive unit as well.
Now the dust has settled and you've had some time to reflect on it, do you feel different? Does the club feel different as a result of that accomplishment?
Yeah, hungry for more. It really is. It's that chase. Like, as soon as we lifted that trophy in 2023 for winning the Shield in the regular season, we did want to do the double, and we were 15 minutes away from doing it. So we didn't have as great a regular season this year, a few injury setbacks that we had to navigate through, but we came good at the right time. So when you do win the final game, and I know I joked in the press conference about the difference between the two, it is more fun winning the regular season because you then, more fun winning the final game of the season because you go into the off season still on a bit of a celebratory high. It's not like you're trying to say, well, when's our next game that we can try and put things right. You're actually going into it and saying, right, that was enjoyable. I want that feeling again. And I know the players, and hence why we renewed a lot of players coming back, because one thing I've known in this league is chemistry is hard to teach. You can sign who the players you want, but, chemistry is hard to teach.
So take us inside that preseason camp. You come into a new season as defending champions. How do you kind of first address the team? Do you have to reset things and kind of refocus expectations?
Yeah, we just, again, you can only do so much back patting. This group likes to be challenged. And we did that. We celebrated. We went through the pain to taste the champagne, as we called it. But now we set a new agenda. Can we attack the Concacaf Champions Cup? And can we get a first win, first point? Can we get something out of that game against the Pumas? Can we look at, the Canadian Championship? Can we be the first CPL team that wins it? We've been, to the semi-final when the previous iteration of it used to be two-legged. Why not now in single game knockout to start with and then double headers? We've shown that we've been able to do that. And then, like I said, in 2023, we're 15 minutes away from being the double. Why not go and attack that? So there's lots of new things that we still haven't achieved. We still want to make sure that we win more trophies because, we're still behind Forge in terms of the number of trophies they've won. So the hunt is still on, and that's what this group is all about.
It's hard to win. Many successful coaches will tell you it's even harder to repeat and to keep winning. Is that something you've put some thought into, and what are you kind of anticipating the biggest challenges being for your group this year?
Every single year we're given new challenges, whether it be that, as we've seen with Carlos Gonzalez when he was at Otto and he came in and he changed things within his first year. They won the regular season to, Benjamin Moore went through a really good spell with York. Every club is getting better and they're adding different pieces to it. So I think for us is we're trying to evolve, so our pre-season this year is different than it was last year. We did it after we went through CONCACAF. This year, we've chosen to come down to California, play LAFC, play Columbus Crew, play San Diego State. And these are games that will prepare us for playing up against the Pumas because, iron sharpens iron, but we want to be playing against, over the last calendar year, we'll have played Orlando City, Pumas, LAFC, Columbus Crew are all in the top 12 to 13 teams in CONCACAF. I mean, that's unheard of. We used to struggle getting games against universities here in Alberta. So to have this now within just 6 years of operating is pretty impressive, but it's also a great stretching point for our team.
It's a massive game coming up, and you have the benefit of bringing back a large portion of last season's squad, obviously, with 21 players returning. There's this debate that goes on about, obviously continuity gets seen as a good thing, but maybe some people would say as well, you need to freshen up the group. You need to make things a little bit different year to year. Where do you kind of stand on that, and how are you trying to strike that balance with the roster this season?
Yeah, listen, that's right. Everyone's entitled to their opinion, and it's like Football Manager. I'm a fantasy football. I still go through that in there in terms of which players I want to bring into my fantasy team. Reality is, what you guys might not see is what goes on the training pitch, what goes on in the locker room, what goes on in the community. And when you have a group of players that have found a way to win trophies in back-to-back years, you keep that because it's that kind of DNA that you want to build on. Of course, you need freshness. So for us, bringing in Jay Herdman, yes, he was part of the group that won, but he'd only really played the last 7 or 8 games of the season. There's a great spark to him. Not only did he help us in the running, but he's also a very young player that will contribute very to the U21 minutes. We're actually going to have the most amount of U21 players in our group ever. I think we've got 6 if you include that, and 7 if you include Max Pipecraft. So we've got a really good core of players that are in their prime, but we also have this up and coming group. So, and we've been very successful with your Mo Farsis, Victor Latouris, Gote and Tignes. They've been part of that under 21. So sometimes you don't really have to shop too far outside. They're often right on your doorstep if you're doing your development in the right way.
One player not on your roster right now is obviously Dan Klopp, the name that stands out. How do you go about replacing a player like that? What's the process? Because I imagine like for like is difficult when you're talking about, a multiple-time award winner.
Yeah, you're spot on. You can't replace a player like him directly, so we have to do it indirectly. What does he bring to us? He brings a calmness and an elegance to the back line. He also brings a toughness in terms of defending. I think that was something that probably wasn't celebrated as much, although he did get the defending one. But like I take the Whitecaps game away, that he was incredibly dominant in the box. So I was always surprised that I never had any approaches from MLS sides for him, because I felt that's his level. He's shown he can do it at that level. But on that, we also adapted his position, because it probably took us 2 seasons to get him back to A, enjoying the football, and B, actually where his strengths are. And he would make those marauding total football runs, and we had intelligence like Shamit Shome or Charlie Trafford that would fill in the void he left. But what we've got to replace is 6 goals. So if you take the Moneyball concept, how do we find those 6 goals? And still have the type of players that will defend for the team and keep the goals away. And I think that's probably where you'll see, as we now venture into the regular season, we're not replacing Dan Klomp directly, but indirectly, we're going to add more goals with another attacking piece.
I could go across your roster and ask you about, probably a top player in their position in the CPL. There's plenty of them. I want to focus on one, though, which is an obvious one, in Tobias Włoszewski. I think that can probably go down as one of the best playoff performances in terms of the entire playoffs that we've ever seen from a CPL player. Did he surprise even you a little bit last season, and what are you expecting in terms of his next step this year?
No, he went through when we brought him in. We saw that he was a player. Having played against him a ton of times. I remember talking to my brother Jay and even Mason Trafford. Out of all the strikers you played against, who gave you a hard time? And his name kept cropping up. And like, well, what is he doing? And basically he was taking a bit of a gap year out and didn't want to stay in Germany. And we got him up off the sofa and away from the PlayStation and got him fit. And credit to our sports science team. Because when he started joining training, you see the things he does, and all we can give him as coaches is just starting points and places. But he does so many things that are off the cuff that you've got to just allow that freedom to perform happen. So as I think the break in the mid-season when I think he got injured against York away, it probably was the right thing for him to be fresh for the playoffs. Because when the playoffs hit, he occupied the back line of Forge at any one time. And I think we needed to, because they're a strong side and we needed him to do that. And he did exactly that. He was a special attacking piece for us, because we noticed that Ali Musi will get double teamed, but now they've got Toby. And in terms of double teaming Toby and Ali, now Sergio pops up or Jay Erdman pops up. And then suddenly that's where we started getting a bit of joy.
Let's talk Concacaf Champions Cup to finish things off. Pumas, you mentioned it's a monumental challenge. It's a club that's just spent a few million signing the Concacaf Player of the Year to strengthen their squads. Do you feel better equipped, though, because of the experience against Orlando City last year for this year's competition?
100%. We went into the Orlando game and we've been watching it back as a staff. We went in there just saying, look, we don't know how far we're going to go with this, but let's put our best foot forward and let's meet them, head on. And, for the first 20, 25 minutes, we're like, okay, we're there. And then that's where the quality counts. That's where the savviness, that's where experience counts. And they scored 2 goals before half time. And again, a third just after half time. That basically killed the tie. What we've got to do now is in these type of environments is we're not playing at home. It's a disadvantage. So how do we create an advantage to be on, what it could be a smaller pitch at Starlight to we've been there before, we've experienced it, and how do we make a game of it for the second leg? So that's where we're working on now. That's why we're having a tougher pre-season before CONCACAF. So we are sharper to game speed, game savviness, because we know going down to Mexico, we've done it in pre-season, but we haven't done it when it counts. And we know playing any team from Mexico, they're a very savvy, fit, aggressive, technical team. And we're looking forward to that challenge.
2 legs, not to be missed. The first one, Thursday, February the 6th at Starlight Stadium, 7 p.m. local time, 8 p.m. back in Calgary and live on One Soccer. Tommy, thank you for this and all the best in 2025.
Thank you very much.